All right, guys, I got the boys with me tonight, but first I want to open up with the growth of this podcast. One thing we are always going to do is be transparent, and I feel like this guy and me had a really good organic conversation, so I want to play this video first, and then I think it will outline what I want to talk about tonight, and then we're going to bleed and have some. We're going to bleed over and have some fun with the playoffs. But I want to open up with this video first if it will play. If not, we will run it next week. But hopefully this works, and then I have some thoughts and feedback on this as we go forward. So let me just play this video, and then we'll continue from there.
Or 10 drinks.
I'm not kidding.
I'm sorry, man. I was,
I'm not kidding. My last name
Your last name is what was it?
sorry about the cue. Hold on one second. Here we go. Perspectives, totally different generation, right? Just like player, right? There is no right or wrong answer. Debo Samuel deserves his money, right? He deserves to be able to take care of his family. And the owner deserves to make his money because there's not very many franchises out there. So if you own an NFL franchise, you have the right to market it however you want. So both things can be true. Just like we can celebrate both individuals, lives. With Gilbert Gottfried and losing Haskins, and we can say we lost them both too early, right? And they had impact on different fields, and sometimes there's crossover. And that's what I need to say here is you can like the 49ers and still want Debo Samuel to get his money. You can like Debo Samuel the player and still want him to support his family. At the end of the day, if the audio is really echoey, I'll make sure I download this for next week. Mike was letting me know the audio is very echoey. Here's what I will say though, in regards to where I want to take this podcast. A lot of people have been talking about, was Adam Scheffler right? Was Dwayne Haskins covered the right way? Does Debo deserve his money? And what I was saying to this guy, and I don't want to ruin it, so we'll bring the video back next week. But what I want to do with this podcast is be authentic and be real and be organic, and even through technical issues, we can work through this. And I think a lot of times we as people don't understand that these players are real humans. They're real people. They're real fathers, brothers, mothers. So when we watch the United States Football League this weekend, or we see Kyler Murray struggling, or we hear stories of Calvin Ridley struggling through mental health, I just wish we wouldn't be so quick to judge, because if you go to your local baker, you just pick up your food, you just pick up a good meal. You just have this expectation that he's going to provide a service for you. But for some reason with sports figures, we have this idea that we have this ownership over them, or we have this concept over them, or this power because we're fans. And as a DFS guy myself, especially because we build lineups and we build under a monopoly or a salary cap, and even fantasy sports players will bug these guys on Twitter, and I find that disgusting. I found it disgusting that Adam Scheffler would bring up Haskins' stats moments after he died, and I just wanted to open this podcast, and obviously I had the technical issues, and like I say, I'll be as transparent as I can about it. So obviously it wasn't the best start, but hopefully even with the rough start, you guys get what I'm saying is like, so when we're watching these guys play this weekend and we're trying the USFL, if you don't like it, turn it off. but don't go to Twitter and make fun of these guys. Don't go to Twitter and like crack all these jokes. This might be the last chance they get to make money, to live out a dream. You know, if you guys played high school football, for example, having your homecoming game was probably the pinnacle moment of your senior year. It might have been the last chance that you had to play with your friends, to make an impact, to do something other than the traditional job. So, like, if we are really sports fans, and if we are really human beings in the way that I want to be as a person, and like the way I want to see sports, because I know as a DFS player, a lot of times gamblers get the wrong reputation as like these heartless people that are just degenerates that spend all kinds of crazy money. I want to take this podcast and this idea of sports on a deeper level and understand these people as people, like it's not my money if Debo Samuel gets paid, or if Kyler Murray gets paid, or Derek Carr, or why does Derek Carr's career get defined by his brother David? Like, why does he still get jokes about David on Twitter? I find all that disgusting. So I know we're small enough now that I'm not beholden to any kind of sponsorship or censorship, so I can be honest when I say we're going to have fun with the USFL and we're going to have fun tonight talking about the NBA playoffs. But I wanted to start off with a serious note and say, like, for all these people making jokes, like I've been promoting my USFL podcast, and that's why I was so passionate about this tonight. I've been promoting it, and there's been more jokes and silliness and just people clowning these kids for getting a second chance. Like if we were all given a second chance to do something we love, I hope we'd all take it. So, like, don't make fun of someone's mental health. Don't make fun of the fact that Calvin Ridley got suspended for a year because he made one silly mistake. I wish we could all look back on it because life's too short. Look at Haskins' situation and realize, guys, life is too short. I don't care if you're 63 years old in Gilbert Godfrey or you're 24 years old and Haskins trying to make a comeback. Like life is too short. We need to live it up. So I'm going to bring these boys in. We're going to have some fun tonight. But I just wanted to make sure we mention that, like, when I talk about the USFL, I'm talking about it from a fan's perspective. I'm not trying to make fun of it. I'm not trying to make fun of anyone who's trying to make their money. Even a guy like Colin Kaepernick, I hope, gets a chance to do whatever he wants to do, whether that be the XFL, which has been rumored, or if he actually gets another chance in the NFL. I wish we could look at sports as a human thing, because I know, for example, my uncle and I connected a lot through sports. That was one of our connections that kept us going through some tough times as I was transitioning through college. I've heard other people's stories, and I wanted to play this guy's video tonight, but the technical issues didn't work. But I'm going to download this video and we're going to play it in the next couple of days. And you guys will hear this guy's compassionate view towards sports and how it connected with him emotionally through a tough time in his family. So, like, I just wish we could look at last second sports and sports in general as a different outlet. And so as I bring these guys on, let's just remember, as we watch these guys' last chance, if you will, let's celebrate that the USFL could be a good league and a good launching point for some of these younger guys to get a second chance or even become bigger names within this new spring league. So I'm going to bring on Mike now. I'm going to bring on Governor. We're going to talk about the NBA playoffs now. But thanks for sticking with me. And as always, we're not going to be perfect. We're not going to be one way. We're going to be diverse. But one thing we are going to be is we're going to speak the truth and we're going to be transparent. So I'm going to bring these guys on now, and hopefully we'll have a good night and a good podcast. What's up, Mike?
What's going on, Logan?
How we doing, buddy?
Doing good. How are you?
Just like most amateur podcasts, we started off with a hitch, but we'll get better as we go on. Just like the USFL and just like the the playoffs are weird though, Mike. As Bavarian governor not here, I want to make sure he got his dinner in. But
we all good.
Never not.
Howdy, folks. Howdy. Ayo.
what?
Rest in peace.
What? Yeah, thank you, by the way. But why are we also defining the playing games in the playoffs? Like, why is this a discussion? Like, why can't we just enjoy the goodness of the games? Like legitly, Stan Van Gundy was talking about it for like 15 minutes during an actually good game the other day. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I
Like,
agree. It's not relevant to me. Like, it's playoffs to me. I don't care what other people think. It doesn't matter if it gets defined one way or the other, though. Ultimately, like, it's important, and I want to watch it.
to me, it's like playing blackjack. Like, I don't care if you play blackjack at Las Vegas or you play blackjack at your local casino. If you hit the jackpot or you win a hand at blackjack, you still win. So, like, the stakes are still there. We can call it the playing game. We can call it the playoffs. But, like, to have a 15 to 25-minute conversation during the game, I thought was just inappropriate by ESPN the other day. I really did. I didn't like it at all. It was a turn off. I'm just like, what are we doing?
Inappropriate. It was not PC.
No, honestly, I thought it was a distraction, man. I was like,
Fair enough. Yeah,
I give you that, but Stan Van talks too much anyway.
Yeah,
I like the Van Gundys.
I mean, I like them too. They're good on-air personalities, but he talks a lot.
I think I said,
yeah.
Go ahead. I think I said this the other night that I don't like, or I don't like how so many people get so much hate as an announcer. Like, everybody hates Joe Buck, but like pretty much any announcer, if I'm watching a game at a bar and they have the sound on, I hear somebody say like, "Oh, fucking this guy. I can't stand it." And it doesn't matter who it is. It's just like everybody always hates them. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, I think I like all these announcers. They have a lot of passion and energy. Like, you call a good game, like, you don't play favorites. I like you. You're a former, player doing color commentary. I like you also. Like, I don't have a problem with just about anybody, which I'm probably in the minority on that.
I'm sort of with you on that, but that's mostly because I don't really care what they're saying. If I'm watching the game, I'm watching the game. If anything, what annoys me is guys like, and I would point out Joe Buck, because I've seen it happen too many times. Does he know football? Because he says something that he thinks is going to happen, and almost the complete opposite happens. Whereas, like, my favorite guy is Romo. Because
I love Romo. Like, I don't
dead on every time. This is it. Oh, this is it. This is what they're going to do. He's audibling into this, and then they run that exact play, and he throws that exact ball.
Yeah,
it's like Romo knows the game.
He does.
And
Joe Buck definitely doesn't.
Yeah, Joe Buck just he messes up so much that like listening to him is not good for me. But Go
ahead.
I was about to say I was just reiterating that like I'm watching the game myself. So like if a guy's not telling me what's going on in the game or what he thinks is going on in the game, it sort of throws me off. So guys like Buck, I'm not big on because I've seen him mess up too much.
I was going to say, I love those Manning broadcasts on Monday Night Football.
Best thing.
But I'm partial. I'm a Giants fan. So
I got to be honest. I think Amazon's going to do some really unique things in the broadcasting realm of things in this upcoming NFL season. I really do.
Well, I mean, just the fact that like it'll be uncensored, so it'll almost be like they put it on HBO. It's like,
well, Jeff Bezos talked about not running any commercials, even maybe.
Well, yeah, they don't run a lot of commercials on Prime stuff anyway. So
right, but to prove a point,
they would just have to figure out how to fill that time and give them a couple minute break. Like, Peyton's going to the bathroom or something once or twice.
He's eating a whole chicken at halftime.
Oh yeah, maybe that's what they do. Maybe that they just have to take a break. You're gonna have like Eli Cam as he's eating a hot dog. While Peyton's drawing up a play.
They did that for Peyton. You don't remember seeing that?
Oh, fuck, you're right. Oh, God.
He was just like, it wasn't a whole chicken, but it was definitely like a cutlet. But it was like a whole cutlet. And he's just like eating it like a chicken finger, but it was quite a wide piece. But it was just like, I'm just going to use my hands. I have no time.
If they can
But
get
it was
good
halftime
guests,
too. I'm like,
yeah, if they can get good guests, like again, I like those guys because I know Eli and Peyton know what the hell they're talking about.
Especially in an organic setting. Like, honestly, I don't care if we get some dead time. I really don't. And I think a lot of people would find it refreshing. That's also why sometimes I was off camera. It's just like, I would rather make mistakes and do it live and do it in an authentic way and even make mistakes with that. Like you saw, my opening monologue didn't go as planned, but I rolled with the punches. I think people want to see that. Like there's a hunger for that because it's better than like Rachel Nichols and like Michelle Beadle's NBA halftime shows where like they're so produced and polished and like, the women have to wear a neckline necklace and the men have to wear a certain tie and have to, cross their arms a certain way. I just think like we're over that like over exaggerated like perception of what you have to be or what you have to do. Like there are some days where I'm going to do my hair and I'm going to wear something nice, and then there are some days where you might see Mike's bald head or he always wears a hat. I'm not going to tell anyone what to do because I just feel like that way you're limiting someone. And like, I feel like the best conversations start when you're being organic and you're being real. And even through mistakes, like lessons are learned. So that's being said. And to transition, I think when we talk about authentic play though, and authentic people, I think the first guy that comes to mind is Jokic, man. I don't think people wanted that guy to be good. This like dumpy looking white guy, and like, oh, he doesn't got the teammates, or the team isn't good. And then he just kept winning. He kept getting triple doubles, like, and he just kept carrying his team, And I just think people were waiting for him to fail, and he just hasn't, Or a guy like even Embiid, like we'll talk about the NBA playoffs, and these guys can take however they want. Remember him coming out of college, everyone's like, oh, he's injury prone. Or like, basically what I'm saying is we always want to label these players, whether it be boom, bust, indifferent. Like we always want to put a label on these guys, like a bumper sticker, before they even got out of the car lot sometimes. Like, oh, this is their sale price. We know what they are. Zion Williamson hasn't played all year. He's never going to play again. Like, we decided, like, but then he has, let's say he has a good year next year, or he has a good series, he comes back, or Ben Simmons comes back. Then we want the Cinderella-like story. We want that, like, March Madness moment. So, like, I just find that like the sports fan sometimes doesn't know what they want for their own good. Like, why can't we just appreciate Jokic for what he is and Embiid for what he is, or even Giannis? Like, I don't like this MVP discussion. Do you guys?
Governor, you want to take this one first, or you want me to go first?
No, I can talk on this. The MVP, like, again, I've already told you guys, I thought my MVP was Luka. Because I thought he had the worst team of the guys who are like averaging good numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like Luka's top 5 in most of the stat, like top 5 in assists, top 5 in scoring. His team was better than Joker's in the West, I believe, right? Dallas finished 4th and Denver finished 5th, right?
Yeah. I believe that's correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Yep. So
Spencer Dinwiddie
or Dallas 4th, Denver 6th with Utah. Yeah, so Dallas, like I was giving it to Luka as my MVP, but I also honestly I think it probably should just go to Giannis. Like Embiid's been good, but I just don't see it. Like he's leading the league in scoring, 30 points a game, 10, 11 rebounds. Like it's a good. He's definitely had a good year, but I don't know, something. Maybe I'm getting pulled off by the Harden effect. I just feel like Embiid showed he needed another guy, and Giannis showed that he only needed the other guy to win a finals game. Like that's all he needed. Giannis probably gets that team to the at least Eastern Conference Finals or NBA Finals. He needs Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton to win one game in the finals so that he don't have to win 7.
I see. I want to set Mike up for this because I know he's ready to fire off some takes. But I want to first say, I'm not saying we don't need an MVP, right? Or like we shouldn't vote on MVP. What I'm saying is like, you should have an educated opinion on who your MVP is. And if you're watching on basketball and you have an opinion and you want to express that opinion, I will listen. Like Governot's take on Luka. I don't agree. He wouldn't be my number one, but I don't need to debate it because I know Governor is an intelligent basketball fan. He made a very good point for Luka, and I can accept it. I don't like the back and forth first take nature that we've turned every sports conversation into, where it's like, oh, you think this guy's MVP? Let me tear him down. And in the meantime, I'll promote my guy.
Yeah.
I wish we could just
You have to like prove your point. You can't just state your opinion.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying
Right.
we shouldn't have MVP. I'm just saying like I don't understand why Jokic winning MVP is somehow damaging to Embiid or vice versa.
Right. Agreed. I think all are deserving. Doncic would be, Jokic would be, and then I would actually say I can't say Embiid deserves it, but like you said, like they're all deserving of it in one way or another. Depends on what criteria you base it off of, and it's a crapshoot. It changes every year. So, in my opinion, all I would like to see is Jokic won it last year, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why I was pretty sure of that. I just want to double check. I would like to see Embiid win it because he's gradually gotten better every year. Granted, I think they did get better with Harden's addition. I thought he did great before Harden too, and led a great young team. With Ben Simmons not playing, it's Maxey, Thibault. You got Tobias Harris, who's a pretty good running mate as a veteran scoring option, but Embiid's putting up his best numbers of his career, just on the fact that it's the best numbers of his career. He's a center. Maybe he doesn't, have that longevity as some of these other guys. I think Luka's going to have a long, great career. He'll probably win other MVPs. I'd like to just for his sake see Embiid win because this might be his only chance, and I'm kind of a fan of like good stories. Not that Luka's or Jokic wouldn't be a good story. Back-to-back MVP. Luka is super young still. He wouldn't be the youngest MVP, but I think either way, three good options. I feel like we're probably missing somebody else who's in the discussion. I mean, DeRozan's had a great year too. Like,
Devin
God, he's going to win now because the Bulls have fallen off.
Booker's been a little inconsistent. As good as Phoenix has been, Booker is he's a better distributor this year, but he's still that inconsistent. He's going to jack it up and probably get you 22, and then there's nights he'll put up 50,
right,
and be like Kobe.
Yeah, and Chris Paul's such a factor on that team.
Yep,
and
it
Embiid,
really is.
They're not Embiid. Ayton is also too. So
that is a great team.
They steal from each other in the votes, probably. Where
if I said I'm really high on Phoenix, I would be not lying.
Let me ask you.
Bridges has had a great year too.
Yep, he's been stepping up. And that bench, when Paul was out and all them were out for a few games, McGee's a solid backup. Biyombo's a solid backup big. They got a good rotation of bigs that can get through and play up against Joker, or if they get to the finals and it's Embiid or whoever.
No,
the big centers, they can actually play against those guys with Ayton, McGee, and Biyombo. And then like Paul, Booker, Payne, Holiday, good guards. Bridges, like he just plays everything. Crowder's been very like I remember Crowder a few finals ago against LeBron. That was a good yeah.
Crowder's a great when his value starts dipping in DFS is when I always like to throw him in because he never stays in slumps long. Like if he ever has them, I feel like he is always a huge valuable role player. If you can remember, wherever he goes, he bounces around. I think he's been in Phoenix a couple years now, but wherever he went, they were in the finals. They didn't
that's
always
what I'm
win,
saying.
but
That's why I remember him in 2017, 2018. I forget who it was that he was on. Maybe he signed with Miami the year they were in the bubble or the year before that.
Nope,
it was the year. No, it was the year LeBron was still in Cleveland. So,
well, he was with Miami in the bubble though too.
Oh, he was. So maybe it was that year. Like I remember they had him, and he was like, giving him fits. So like, Crowder is a very good piece. That's why
and then he goes to Phoenix, and then they're in the finals. And he might have been on the year before, wherever that was.
And then
or when he was on the Jazz, they were good too. I know that.
Cam Johnson's a good player too.
I agree with that, man. Cam has been stepping up as and he's not even.
If I said I'm high on Phoenix, I would not.
Campaign too. That's true. That if they're all healthy, they are a problem depth-wise for anybody.
They are the 1 seed for a reason.
Yep.
Let's
be healthy.
Let's be honest. The Phoenix Suns are like the new age Spurs, man. Where like they might not have any superstars, but they're deep.
But they play so well.
They play
so well. Their team has every, like I'm saying, even their bench pieces, they're set to play a team that's got bigs. They're set to go small with Cam Johnson and Crowder and Bridges and just pull out and go small ball. Like they can do anything.
Hell, if we're being honest, Monty Williams, their head coach, could probably give you 3 more minutes. I mean, that's how deep they are. I mean, honestly,
I think I'd rather see the hair Alfred Payton than Monty Williams at this point, but we'll see.
But I'm saying that speaks to their depth. But
and that even the trade at the deadline, Torrey Craig is an underrated forward that they have. Yep. Like they are very good, very very good.
Yeah,
they are.
The more I'm thinking about it, how much they got in their bench, and just role players and then they have 3 solid options.
Yes, they've got 3 good scorers that start. And then they've got an 8-man deep rotation that's like crazy good.
Yeah.
Like you put the other 2 starters with like Bridges and Crowder as the other 2 starters in with them. Then you just give me Cam Johnson, Torrey Craig, Cam Payne. That's getting you through most of this playoffs, I think. And then you've got McGee's and Biombos and Torrey Craig's when you need them for different matchups.
Can I circle back and tie this in, because I think you guys might have wanted to say something about my monologue or just like make reference to this whole conversation at a deeper level that I think a lot of other podcasts will be afraid to touch on. But in spirit of Dwayne Haskins and the USFL starting up and giving guys a second chance, is there stories in sports, maybe this playoffs, maybe the United States Football League, maybe a Dwayne Haskins like player, that like, is there a story you guys want to happen in terms of a comeback, a humanitarian story, some kind of poll? Because I always find it weird, like when someone passes or when something drastic happens, then we react. But if we think about it, there's a lot of good stories in the league that never get covered until something bad happens. And then we want to compare it, like feel what you want about Watson, right? But it's like, oh, Watson's a bad guy now. So now we'll pull a good story out of there. But is there any good stories that are under the radar? It could be NBA playoffs. It could even be UFC or golf. I have a good golf story I want to bring up after I let you guys go. Is there any like underdog stories that you guys are cheering for?
Well, just to tie into your monologue too, something you touched on and made me think about while you were saying it was with Colin Kaepernick. I know he just went to throw at Michigan, and I know he wants to get back into the NFL. He said it as much, and he threw just to prove that. You know, it was a short workout, I assume.
Yeah.
But it made me think as you were saying that, because I know we're doing a USFL podcast tomorrow. Why is he not in the USFL? Is that on the coaches or the GMs of the USFL who drafted him, or who didn't draft him, I should say? Or is that on Colin Kaepernick for being too good for the USFL? Because whoever it is, my opinion on that is just shame on them. If you're not willing to give Colin Kaepernick another chance, shame on you, USFL. But Colin Kaepernick, you're going to Michigan to do a couple practices against, you know, make a couple throws against nobody and say, I deserve a shot. What would be wrong with going to proving it?
Yeah. No, I'm with you, Mike.
I agree. He should, like, that would be the right thing to do. If he really wants to try to get back in the NFL or even just play football, he should have declared. But he did. It was up to him to declare for the USFL for their draft. So it was his choice to not play in the league.
That is shame on him. If he wants to play in the NFL, all he has to do is play one season in this league.
Show that he still has all his athleticism. Still,
if he tears it up like Philip Walker did,
and then I was about to say, at worst, if he can come back and show that he is still where he was, then you can give proof to all the people who can back his conspiracy. It's like, wait, no, he's still the same quarterback he was when you guys stopped hiring him to be a quarterback and cut him.
Exactly.
You actually did blackball him. He's still good, which I still am on the fence on because I wasn't sure how great he was when he was playing. I
thought he was very good at first, and then he regressed.
I didn't see him regress. I saw him he had a
the defense is caught up.
He had a breakout season, leveled off, and was basically who he was. He doesn't have a good touch ball. He's a fastball thrower, and he's very athletic. But he knows the game, so he's not a horrible game manager either, which makes that's one thing that a lot of quarterbacks don't have is they can't manage the game. They can
That's a great analysis and breakdown of Colin Kaepernick's game because that is so on point. You nailed it.
He was a solid game manager. That could get you through a game. That's why you were able to let go of Alex Smith for him. Because Alex Smith is a great game manager, but limited in his arm throwing. Kaepernick had the arm to try to do the throws, but wasn't always great at those touch passes. He was more of a bullet passer. If he can throw it 20 yards over the middle and get it to a guy, that's great. If he's got to get it over a dude's and drop it in, not the most accurate thrower. But could he work on that? Yeah. I thought I saw him level off and have that for like a year or two.
Has he been working on that?
Well, like I said, he had one good year where they made the Super Bowl where he made a few passes like that throughout the year, but it wasn't consistent. And then the next year or two that he finished out the deal, he was basically just that athletic running, straight ball thrower. He's not making a mistake running the game. And that's consistent. So, and again, that's consistent where it's like, that's better than half the quarterbacks in the league, probably. It's better than most rookies.
I agree. He could play.
Exactly. So if he went out and proved that in the USFL,
he could be a backup. It's just he doesn't want to be.
Exactly. That's the thing. I do think it might be an ego thing at him now because there are paths where he could just be playing and showing people that he can still play, and then putting pressure on the NFL. Like, why don't you have a good quarterback that's sitting right here that's been an NFL quarterback, that's been to a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Playing in your league when he can. He's trying. He's asking. He has an agent.
Yep. If he just proved it, it's how short is this season? What are they playing each other twice or once? Like it's a 7-game season. He could play 10 games in this and sign in the next season immediately.
I believe it's 13 weeks.
Yeah, 10-week season and 3-week playoff.
All right. Well, that's not too bad.
So, Governor,
More time to shine.
Yep.
is there any positive story, like a comeback story, a under the radar story that you want to shine in homage to Dwayne Haskins? If not, I got one.
I was about to say, not really that. I do have one underdog story that I really am rooting for.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not really to be fair, it's not really an underdog story. It is a comeback, but it's the comeback that probably everyone would really hate.
Oh,
Johnny Manziel.
No, it's about the NBA playoffs.
Oh.
I am really, it was derailed because it was supposed to start happening already. But I was really hoping the Warriors got healthy. I was looking forward to Clay. I've been looking forward to Clay all year. He is beasting and looks like old Clay.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward to everyone sleeping on Clay, Curry, Draymond, which won 72 games and beasted for like 4 straight seasons. I'm pretty sure they ran the West for like 4 seasons. And then they picked up Durant and won 2 more titles.
Yeah. Now they got Wiggins as their Harrison Barnes.
Yep. They've got Jordan Poole as a backup guard.
That's good point too. He's nice.
All right. Iggy's still there again for experience off the bench. You remember Finals MVP Andre Iguodala. Remembered him back in fucking Philadelphia. He's a big favorite of mine.
Gary Payton Jr.
Yeah, no, again, if they had Steph healthy, that's the team I was going to pick as my West Conference team.
I want to say he was a game time decision. I'm going to look that up again.
I thought he wasn't going to be back till the second round or midway first round.
I'm not going to give you any hate on that, Gov. I like that call because as I get older and
I do love the Klay Thompson return story. I lived in LA for a while. I remember hearing his dad and talk about that. And it's like, Klay is a good dude. Klay is an actual good dude. He's a good player. I love seeing him come back from this knee. And he looks amazing when they play. Like, he plays 38 minutes. He's putting up 40-something points. He's hitting every 3. He looks like old Klay Thompson. He can play some defense still. That's a scary team if everyone's healthy. There's another team that's pretty deep with major playoff experience.
Yeah, I think they would give Phoenix. Again, both teams all healthy.
That's my Western Conference Finals.
You guys have
Golden State,
Phoenix.
Beats them.
You guys haven't even mentioned, unless I missed it.
So Steph is a game time decision. All things trending in the right direction, but if he does play, he'll be on a minutes restriction.
And in the first round, that's fine. You got Jordan Poole.
Exactly. Yep.
You've got Clay, who's a monster. Like, Golden State's they are my upset pick to win the West.
And that all being said, and I agree with you on that, they're playing Denver in the first round, I see now. And now, granted, Denver's handicapped because, I love Monte Morris, but it's not Jamal Murray. And the Joker is a mismatch, though, for the
Looney is not.
Warriors.
Draymond's not really matching up with Joker.
Yeah.
Looney's not really matching. This is where they really wish they had Wiseman. This is where they really wish they had Wiseman.
Warriors, especially
that's probably so. Basically, it is going to probably be Joker versus the 72-win Warriors. Because that's what I see in my head. I see everyone on the court, and I'm like, that's the 2013 Warriors. That's the 2014 Warriors, just before they got Durant. That team's a monster. And everyone's sleeping on him.
I don't know that everyone's sleeping on him.
I got more people liking Memphis over Golden State.
No, that's nonsense. That's nonsense.
I do like Memphis.
I don't. I'm like, this is the one time. This is the one time I'm kind of with Shaq and Chuck when they were talking after the game. I'll take Minnesota in the series.
Really?
I will too.
I love Minnesota. Okay, and then I had Osimo people talk. Okay, here's what I saw in my Osimo chat of people talking. Not putting up any names.
Hold
a bunch of people talking.
Gov. You got to realize that not everyone knows what Osimo is. So,
It's a Discord set. So a couple of private Discords I'm in talking to people. I'll just say it as that. In a few
Okay,
private
so
Discords, I saw, a few
Superstar.
DFS superstar Discords that where I'm in with a few other people. Some of them are people on the internet. You can get in their Discords and that. But talking with them, some of them are like after Ja, like in my opinion, after Ja, Minnesota probably has the next 2 to 3 best players on the court. Because I would definitely take Cat and then one of Ant or D'Lo before I get to anyone else on Memphis.
I
Right on that, definitely. They have
I was
stars
sitting in
versus
my
1 star.
But here's the thing. Let's take the top 3 for each team. Because that's what I was. So D'Lo, Ant, and Russell for the Minnesota. I like those 3 over the top 3 for Memphis. But in the Discords I'm in, those guys were taking like the top 4 for Memphis over even like everyone but maybe Towns. And they don't even have talent. Like I've got like specific. I got guys saying Bane and Brooks over Towns. It's Ja, Bane, Brooks, then Towns, then JJJ.
Are they from Memphis or something?
No, like these guys aren't from Memphis. They just legitimately think Memphis is a better team and that those guys are better players than Ant and D'Lo. And that Towns can get played off the court. So like he's not as good as those guys. But like I don't see Dylan Brooks and Desmond Bane that good of a player. Like
I think Dylan Brooks is. I'll let Logan go first and rebuttal if he has something.
Not saying they're bad players, but I definitely have the Minnesota guys over them.
Well, can we be honest about something for a moment? Even superstars can have bad games.
Of course.
Okay? Like, again, these are things that ESPN or like a bigger channel doesn't want to say. Maybe. I'm not saying I don't know. Maybe they don't want to say it because, you got to put somebody on the poster. Or you might interview somebody or you have a relationship with somebody, and usually you have the relationships with the star players. Well, I understand that no one wants to be critical of star players. I'm not saying not to be critical of Cat's performance in the playing games or the playoff games, however you want to determine that. But you're allowed to have a bad game. Kyrie Irving had a really good game with the Nets the other night, and Durant took a back seat. He got all the praise, but the Timberwolves won that game with Russell's great performance, just this fantastical performance by Russell.
Yes.
And
agreed.
all they talked about the next morning was how bad Cat was. It's like, sure, let that be the Scottie Pippen story, but don't undersell the fact that Edwards plays basketball like he's a football player, and he might be the second most physical player outside of Giannis on a basketball court this season, or that Russell had a great performance, but no, we want to talk about how Cat underperformed, even though they won the game. Like, star players are allowed to have bad performances and even quote unquote suck once in a while and say, hey, my gas tank isn't 100% today. I'm human. That's the whole point of my monologue. Even in my mistake, I guess it wasn't one of those happy accidents to show that I'm human, that I thought something was going to go a certain way and it did not go that way. And there I had to react to it consequently. Now, Cat is going to have to act on it, Mike. And do you really think that Cat turned himself into this like sixth man or something? Like he doesn't deserve to be on the court? Like we need to pump the brakes on some of our overreactions these days.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I think these guys might be a little too high on Memphis. But then again, the people I hear talking about liking Minnesota are like Shaq and Charles Barkley, and notoriously I go against Charles Barkley. So it's a very rough decision for me.
So
okay, I want to ask you this, Mike, because I know you're a hardcore basketball fan, so you'll be able to tell me the truth. Do you think people are cheering for the Timberwolves because they think they're good, Or do you think they're cheering for the Timberwolves because it's that March Madness 16 seed against the 1 seed field? Because we always do that in March Madness. We always pretend like we're huge fans of George Mason years ago, or like Shaka Smart a couple.
I don't. I get what you're saying. I don't think people are getting that. I don't think there's any Cinderellas in the NBA. Like March Madness is a different thing. Like St. Peter's,
Yeah,
being in New Jersey, like I didn't even know St. Peter's was a college, let alone in New Jersey. And
Thank
then
you.
I found out they were, and I'm like, all right, let's root for them. Go St. Peter's.
thank you for being honest about that, Mike.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. And like, I don't think most people knew. Like, they
No clue.
hadn't been
No.
relevant. I know Monmouth because Monmouth's close to me, but and they get in the tournament sometimes. I don't remember St. Peter's getting in much. Anyway, I did want to go back to the Minnesota Memphis series. The reason I think Memphis is going to win the series is simply off the fact of I keep doubting them, and then like Ja gets hurt, and it doesn't matter. They win without Ja.
Yeah.
So I feel like they just play really good defense, and I know that's true with like specifically Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr. I know those guys are two guys who are pretty solid defenders.
Jaren Jackson Jr. stays out of foul trouble. He's a very good play most days. But he gets into foul trouble because he's playing such a rough defense.
Right. And same with Dylan Brooks. He has that problem too. I remember that in the previous playoffs. He got fouled out a couple times, and he's happy to take on the other team's best player and try and lock him down. And he's battled a lot of injuries, and so has Ja. And I think that's almost made them better because it doesn't even matter who's out. They're still the higher seed than Minnesota is. So, yeah, were they the one?
Memphis?
No. Phoenix was.
Yeah, Phoenix is the one. Yeah.
So Memphis is what, the 2 then?
They're the 2 seed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Right now,
So I mean, that's kind of telling, given all their injuries, and Phoenix too. That I just think both teams have incredible depth and play really good defense.
I mean, really, the top 3 teams all have good depth because if you remember, like Golden State hasn't really been healthy all year. They were getting healthy these last like 10 games, and then Steph hurts himself again.
Yep.
Like they had just gotten back Clay and started putting him in minutes. They had Draymond, who was out for a few games in the middle of the year around All-Star break.
Bad without Draymond.
Yeah, their defense goes way up with Draymond. Like Draymond is going to be key to them beating Denver because he's going to have to make sure that no one's shutting down Joker, but if Draymond can make sure that help make sure it's just Joker, I think Golden State wins that series. Because I don't think, as good as he is, I have to see Joker win a playoff series where he's the only guy able to score 20-plus points. I feel like if he doesn't get like a 20-point, 30-point game from Aaron Gordon or a big game from Morris or one of the guards, Clarkson maybe, he's not going to be getting by this series.
But why don't we speak on Denver's depth the way we did Phoenix? Because I feel like Denver might not have any superstars outside of Jokic, but I do feel like that team is extremely deep in a way that doesn't get talked about, especially in the mainstream.
I mean, let's see. Monty Morris, Barton, Gordon, like those were all solid players.
Even Bones Highland.
Bones is a good backup
He's been
guard.
stepping up. I did not know him before this year. I don't know. Does anybody know where he came from? Out of what school?
I want to say Marquette, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Let me check. Hold on, I got it up.
But also, as you do that efforting, I'll kind of add some cover.
VCU.
Okay.
I knew it was a good program.
Another good basketball program.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like players come at it everywhere.
Yep. Oh, I did forget. Denver is very big. Because like you have Joker, and then you have Cousins.
You have
So, like-
Cousins. They have.
But that's the thing. Like they got like 4 guys from their starting unit. They got Joker, then Morris, Barton, and Gordon are all solid. Jeff Green has been solid, but
I love Jeff Green.
yeah, I do too.
Well-
As a player, I love Jeff Green, but like he's
Loved him
been
at
solid, but
Georgetown.
he's not the greatest like fantasy player point per minute. He's not
Not
like
consistently,
yeah.
for sure. Spot plays.
There's a reason him and Jermichael basically split the minutes right there.
Don't sleep on Austin Rivers either. Every time everyone forgets about Austin Rivers, that's when he shows up.
Yep.
One of the things I like about Austin Rivers, I think one of the most underrated things about him, just like his dad, he's a really good defender. I think everyone thinks of him as like a spot-up shooter, but he's a real problem child. No pun intended. I mentioned his dad, but he's got like a weird, lengthy kind of wingspan about him that challenges a lot of guards in a way that I don't think a lot of people give him credit for. And he's been around the block. Like that's what I'm saying. Like Denver's kind of they're kind of the team that everyone like gave up on, and like now they have a lot of scar tissue. You know, they're kind of the team that's like their guys have been kicked around. Even Joker has been kind of teased about his weight, about the way he looks. He doesn't got any hair. He's kind of a dopey looking doughboy, and so like. Or you got these castaway characters, or Green's too old to be productive, and so I'm just saying, like they got these like guys with a bit of an edge on them, you know, a chip on their shoulder, like a Drew Brees kind of mentality of I'm going to show you I still got it, kind of vibe I'm getting from Denver. I wouldn't sleep on them, and people don't talk about that elevation, but that's real. Like Denver has a real home court advantage, unlike most franchises, because the elevation is for real. If you're not used to it, especially in the series,
That's true, but you also have to be able to take advantage of it. And unfortunately, Denver's like one of the big teams, so they kind of need to slow the game down a little bit.
yeah.
Like, if Denver were Golden State or Phoenix, where you could just run with their guys, it'd be great. And then like just going 1-to-1, like if you like the starters, which like now if Denver, if they get Michael Porter Jr. back next year, that's a totally different team. That now you put him in the starters in place of Jeff Green. That starting lineup's a beast. Now you can just work on that bench, because right now I think it's the bench where they lose. Like as good as Bones has played this year, and as good as Austin Rivers is, I agree with you on that. And then I love DeMarcus Cousins and always have.
Yeah.
You're giving me those 3 as their top bench guys. I'm taking Poole, Kuminga, Iguodala with Golden State. I'm taking Cam Payne, Cam Johnson, and pick another dude on Phoenix, Torrey Craig.
I want to get Mike back into this conversation, but I gotta say, Cousins is another guy that was like very talented, very skilled, and then kicked to the curb. People tried to curb stomp that guy again. I'm telling you, they got a bunch of guys who've been castaways that have been told they were good at one point and then told, hey, you're an ugly duckling now. Go away. We don't want you. You're garbage. You're trash. You're
shit on a stick.
It's about to say, like, I don't know, but that, like, I don't know if I have to paint Cousins as that. Cousins has a lot.
No,
of
I'm
his
not
own
saying
doing.
any of those guys are. I just
I know.
trying to give Logan another insult because he was trying to just keep
No, I know.
hurling
Yeah, I know.
insults.
He just kept going. I know, but like I like Cousins, but like he's done a lot of his own stuff. Like, not to get into it too much, but like he's made the choices to flip from teams over the last few years. He's the one who basically threw his fit and got down of his contract. Was like, I can't deal with playing the way this is.
No,
Well,
And like
I
he did have the injury that he has basically overcome. Like he had to take a year off because he's a big
He's had
man
multiple injuries.
Yeah,
I think he had it back-to-back seasons, right?
yeah.
The
But
same thing, or maybe different legs, but
yeah,
or the
but
same.
it looks like he's basically done the same thing Embiid did, because like Embiid had like the bad ankles coming out and basically had to miss his first 2 seasons, but now he's been playing quite well. So maybe Cousins just probably did the same thing. He just had to miss basically 2 seasons in the middle of his career. And now he can maybe end his career on a good note, because he's been playing well. But even in the times where Joker sat and he gets to play 35, 40 minutes, he plays very well. He was one rebound away from winning me like $1,000 on the last day of the fucking season when Joker wasn't playing. If he plays 1 minute, if he plays 1 minute of that overtime and gets one rebound, oh boy, man. He had 9 rebounds. Yeah.
Well, you still won something, right?
Oh no, yeah, I cashed everywhere, but like I finished third.
I understand.
There were times I finished third and I was 2 points out, so 1 rebound plus the double bonus would have done it.
Just know, that means you're close. So keep plugging away.
Oh yeah. NBA DFS has been good to me. Now I'm trying to grind and get that. I want the 25,000 crowns for the showdown playoff Iron Man.
Nice. I think this kind of collab brainstorm is going to benefit all of us, and then we're going to start cashing big prizes like you're saying, and then that's when the viewership's going to start.
Oh yeah, once we got 3 Millie Makers on this podcast, we're all good. Yeah.
I'm telling you, once we get one big cash, then we can just promote that, and it doesn't matter who it is. It's just like, hey man, we're tossing ideas around, we're shooting the shit, and it just comes to us, and somehow we put a masterpiece together, by collaboration. I don't care who gets it, and I'm not even saying like whoever wins, like I don't need any money. It's just like I'm glad and happy for the team.
Exactly.
And I think it'll still you can then promote it. It's like
I've been seeing that a lot in the Discord chats I've been in. It's like people talking there and everyone been doing well.
Mike, and it could be a viewer that we never know listens to this podcast. In all honesty, it could be this fly on the wall guy that joins us for 6 minutes. If that's the biggest misconception of gamblers I think I have experienced in my lifetime. 90% of DFS players or people that gamble or people that are risk averse are some of the nicest people I have met in my entire life. I want to say that one more time. Gamblers get this rep for being these like greedy, slimy, greasy spoon kind of characters. These people, I'm saying, like, as a community, like even casino players,
we're trying to beat the bad guys.
I was about to say, gamblers aren't bad. Bookies are the nerdy, nasty ones. The guys setting the line, taking all the money. Those are the guys that should get that rep because they're the guys who end up being the corrupt ones. We're just trying to put some money. You give me a line, I like it. I'll put some money down on it. Let's see. Yeah. I think your line is wrong. I want to put some money down on it.
But seriously though, would you guys agree with that? That I think gamblers are the nicest people I've met in my like some of the nicest people. So when you're willing to take
can't disagree.
Yeah, when you're willing to take a chance.
Well, that's not all true. Some of them are, but there are some bad apples. But that's anything.
I mean, everywhere there can be bad ones. Then again, anyone who doesn't think it's bad, like how many times has any sports fan really been like sitting around watching a game with their buddies, and maybe they're playing maybe it's 2 teams and your rival teams. I like North Carolina, you like Duke. We're playing each other. Like how many times have you just jokingly looked over and said, "Dude, there's no way this guy's scoring 30 points tonight. Screw that. He's going down." You just set a line. You're a prop bet.
Yeah.
And you're waiting for takers. You literally just did that. So if you really got a problem with gambling, you probably have a problem with sports in general.
And let me just say
you're not fun.
Yeah.
And talking about probabilities, I mentioned it in my monologue to circle back again about how we shouldn't clown these guys on Twitter because they're real people, right? And how we should have respect for them as humans because they're fathers and their mothers, for WNBA or fighters like Amanda Nunes. I know she took a lot of hate when she lost her one fight a couple months ago. But also, some of these athletes need to thank us, the gamblers. And I'm being serious when I say this because we're the ones that wake up at 9:30 in the morning and watch Jacksonville against Atlanta and London, and we promote their product. So, like, as much as people will give them crap about fantasy sports, there's also a lot of people in fantasy sports that give a lot of props to players and give a lot of attention to players and support players and even donate to good causes. I know a lot of DFS players, if they do hit big, they will donate to some cause. Or I know one DFS player supported Rich Eisen's St. Jude's charity. So like, while I agree that sometimes, and sorry about my air fryer, I don't know why it's doing that, but look, I know
Dinner's ready.
Yeah, dinner's ready.
Ooh, chicken nuggets. Ooh.
I know some players will give these real players, some real hassle, but let's not box ourselves in to a Dr. Seuss reference again on the third straight podcast. Just like, don't box us gamblers into a. We don't all bother DFS or these actual players. Like some of us really do care about these players as people and do donate good money, including Al Zeidenfeld, who always gives back to the children every year as part of his DFS winnings every year. So I just want to mention that as well. Like these guys are doing good things when they do win money, these DFS players.
Yes. As I plan to do when I actually have a little more than just a few $100 bankroll.
Hey, that's all you need to start with.
But
it's grinding. Like you
It's
grind it up.
grinding and managing.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it's just like this podcast, though, isn't it? Isn't it fun in a way that we're so fresh and we're so new and we're so nuanced that we don't even know how to mess up in the right way because we haven't done it long enough to really know what mistakes we're making. So we're just going off the cuff. Like there is something to that I'm not having to groom myself to a certain image, or that like there's no expectation. So we can go on every night if we want to and go an hour and a half.
Yeah, we have no set schedule. That's the beauty of it. If we're all around, let's roll a tape.
Right.
Hard out 20 minutes. I'm kidding.
I
I do got to run to the bathroom real quick. I am going to take that opportunity to run.
I do want to say,
I'll be right back.
I do want to say though, we did get some big shout outs for a little podcast for some smaller YouTube channels. We're going to just call collaborations, Governor, with some smaller YouTube channels this week. I worked out, but I got to give it up to, I don't know how much PFF you follow, but Eric Eager did our podcast a huge favor today, and I would be ill-advised if I didn't at least shout him out. I don't know if he'll ever see this, but if any of you are joining because of Eric Eager, he not only gave me some good advice and good encouragement to keep going, because he really loves football, Gov, and he loved that we were covering the UFC, the USFL with such exuberance that he wanted to give us some praise. But not only that, he did a retweet. So he retweeted the whole podcast to his 28,000 followers. So I got to give him a shout out for that. That was tremendous for him to do.
Good. Love to hear that. Now,
as we wait for Mike to get back, we'll get to the playoffs. But one of my humanitarian stories I wanted to mention, since Mike's going to the bathroom, and we'll kind of stall for him to get back here, and then we'll talk about the NBA playoffs. One of the Dwayne Haskins like good boy stories I kind of want to share as like a comeback story would be, there's this guy in golf that is Asian, and he has to serve in the Korean Army if he doesn't win at least one major, I think, in the next year. So I'm cheering for him to win a major, and I'm going to fix my air fryer so it doesn't go crazy. What happened was I took some food out, and the clip is stuck right now. So it's stuck between cooked and not cooked. So it's getting confused. So just give me just a moment.
You got it. That's a crazy story that I just walked into. You could take care of your thing. I'll talk to Governor about it. What Logan was saying was the Korean guy in golf is going to have to go serve in the Army if he doesn't win.
That's a little crazy. Like I didn't realize. Like,
I mean,
this is South Korea,
I know that
right? It's like this isn't a North Korean guy who's got to go back and do that. No,
but
right?
that's part of their culture. I know, like I'm pretty sure in Greece, like they have to serve 2 years in the army.
This
if
is
they're
a young
male or
guy,
something
I'm
like
guessing.
that. I
So
don't
they
know if that's an
probably-
outdated thing, but
It
I'm
is.
guessing that-
It is a young guy. His name is Sungjae M. He's actually a really good golfer.
Oh, okay, I know him. Okay.
M, if he goes to Korea, and he said he would to serve in the military, he won't try to dodge it or anything like that. But if he goes, he's projected to lose anywhere from $1.5 million to $2 million if he's forced to retire. Korean Zombie had to do the same thing for the UFC.
yep.
There's also
Did they give him the same stipulation? That's what I thought of too. Like, had he won, would he have not had to go?
Like it probably wouldn't have to go if he were champion.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like, you bring us promise.
Yeah,
We can't
champions.
take you away from something that you're clearly one of the best at.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
should
don't.
be out there.
I
You
would
should be
argue
out there
Korean
doing
Zombie
that.
was, and same with this golfer. If he's
Like
in the
maybe,
top,
like that's true, but maybe that's
Right.
not what Korea had a thing. Like if you are not champion level and have
that's
been
such a high
you have-
standard. Like that's insane.
but they have that stuff over there. Like you watch sumo, you make Yokozuna, you're a Yokozuna till you die and can enter any tournament you wish at any time.
Yeah.
But it might take you 10, 20 years to work your way up to Yokozuna
Well,
through all the other classes.
I thought
going
Yokozuna
to
was a
tournaments in that.
wrestler.
No. That's just the name of the top sumo wrestler in Japan. Yokozuna was a professional wrestler.
Okay,
But the title Yokozuna is given to the top sumo wrestlers in Japan who win multiple tournaments, and then they like convene and give them that title. Once you're given that title, it's very hard to strip you of it, and you are a Yokozuna forever. You can compete in any sumo tournament as a Yokozuna, and they just put you in the tournament bracket and be like, "Yep, he gets a spot." Someone else who wasn't a Yokozuna, guess you don't get in because there's a Yokozuna coming to this tournament, and he
There's
gets
an
to just
alpha.
And so like there might be 2 or 3 Yokozuna in any tournament, and they can just go and compete and win as much money as they want because that a lot of money for like sumo is like bet in the room. Like that's the one thing I love about sumo. They're very open with it.
It's like cockfighting.
The second the fight's over, you get on one knee. They give you the bow, and they hand you an envelope with your money, your winnings. And that's the winnings for your fight.
That's the underground.
And it's not just the winnings for your fight, like the fight winnings. You get your cut of the bet for the room inside.
Whoa.
That's in the envelope. Is your cut of all the bets made on you in that room.
You know a lot about
I watch sumo
wrestling.
I watch a lot of sumo. Me and
Oh,
my brother
how
love
do you
watching
watch
sumo.
that?
Just watch NHK. So I don't listen to a lot of American news. I watch BBC. I watch NHK. I watch
Are you
Korean
from America?
Yeah, I'm born in Miami. I'm just I'm
just curious. We've never gotten that far.
Yeah.
And
My sister
lives
lives in Beijing.
So shout out New Jersey.
Like my sister lives in Beijing. She moved there in like 2016, 2017. So she lives in China and has through this entire pandemic. I actually haven't seen her. She flew. It's the crazy part. My sister was visiting me in Florida and flew back to China the day before Trump banned all travel to China.
Wow.
So I haven't seen my sister since then. January of like 2020. She was here for a month in January for Chinese New Year. I live in Florida. She was visiting us, renewed her visa, flew back like she'd done every other year, like since 2016. She flew back during Chinese New Year and spent a month with us. She spent like a week in California with all her friends there and 3 weeks with us in Florida.
I want to say really fast, and you guys won't believe me probably because it flowed so well, but none of these boys knew my monologue, but this is what I mean, how sports can intersect so many different cultures and diversity, and we can learn from each other, and like it's just a table setter for the multi-plot of information and knowledge and connectivity we can gain.
Right. And I feel like a lot of, and like to get back to my point real quick before you finish, like the reason I watch a lot of those channels is like I feel like a lot of the American news is like all the same. Like the American news is down to like maybe 1 or 2 channels, and even then, it's like if you watch Fox News, you know exactly what they're saying on MSNBC because they're saying the opposite. So it's like you only need to watch one.
BBC, maybe.
Well, BBC, NHK is the Japan network. I forget the Korean one off the top of my head, but like I have a digital antenna because I don't pay for cable either, so I get a lot of those channels.
You don't have to admit that you don't pay for cable on the podcast. I know we're low.
I legit have a Verizon cell phone and a Sling account. I don't pay for cable.
Oh, okay.
I pay for internet, but I do not have a home phone or like cable television.
You can get this NHK on Sling?
No, I use my I bought a digital antenna that you can hook up to anywhere. That I just stick in my window and it just gets all the random, because everything comes in HD channels through your cable, but they have to have the old AV channel still playing. So you can buy a digital antenna, hook that up, and you never have to pay for cable. You can get NBC, ABC.
So your antenna picks up a Japanese station?
It picks up the big Japanese station. It picks up basically the ABC, NBC of Japan and Korea.
Are you still on the East Coast? I don't. You don't have to get away.
I live in Orlando.
Oh, okay. You still live? No, I'm just curious. I'm like, man, that's like a far. Like, yeah. I'm in New Jersey, and like sometimes I don't get the New York stations if I travel too far in my car. So
I bet if you get the right digital antenna, you'll get BBC easy.
Yeah,
you might even get some German networks. Who knows? You might get more European stuff up
I mean, I can always just look up like BBC clips on YouTube and then still get like that started coming in my feed because. But
yeah,
anyway, we don't got to get on news too much.
But I'll watch those news networks to like give me a good opinion. Like it's another perspective of what's going on because
I love multiple opinions.
They'll talk about American stories and like they'll give a completely different perspective. It's like, oh, Fox News and MSNBC didn't mention any of this.
Yes, they always say with the the truth, there's 3 sides. It's like there's like,
it's the 2 sides arguing and then the side looking in.
Yeah,
it's the 2 sides arguing and the side showing the 2 sides arguing. Those are the 3 opinions.
They say there's like person A's story, person B's story, and then there's the truth.
Yeah,
but I like to think like with multiple opinions and conversation, you can kind of form your own opinion,
right?
But better form it with lots of opinions because you get like, I don't know, I just learned something with the Yokozuna thing. Like I just remember the big sumo wrestler that fought in probably the WWF.
Yes.
Back in the day. But
that reminds me of the funniest thing I saw from the WWE in the last 10 years. Like I just remember like, oh, it's a great story. So if you let me go, I'll make it as quick as possible.
I'll go ahead, man.
I love it.
WWE a few years back had this big event in Saudi Arabia. It was paid for by a Saudi prince. He gave Vince like $50 million, $70 million. Bring your fighters over to Saudi Arabia and do like a WrestleMania for me. Mm-hmm. I have requests on who I want to wrestle. And Vince was basically took the money and got everyone he needed. Brock needed to go. Taker's got to wrestle. One request was given. My favorite wrestler. I want to see Yokozuna wrestle. The man unfortunately passed away years ago. Right. The guy was either didn't care or was fine. Vince paid a Yokozuna to come and wrestle as Yokozuna.
Why not?
I mean, technically, why not? It worked. I remember that event. It was hilarious because I knew it was happening. Though. But yes, like that, like the stipulation for the Saudi prince is like, I want to see Yokozuna wrestle. Yokozuna's unfortunately deceased, so he gets a Yokozuna. That's where I learned, like, oh my God, how many Yokozunas are there for him to get? And that's when I learned about the Yokozuna stuff.
It had been so long probably since he wrestled. Like no one, I'm sure like the diehard fans
knew exactly what he looked like. But really, if you just put him in the red sumo gi and give him his hair, he would
and then you're just like, all right, well, 20 years of age, like
hopefully the $100 million the Saudi prince gave it is good.
Yeah.
It's just one of the funny things I love. Vince will do a lot of stuff. That's where it's like I knew the XFL had a shot because Vince will do a lot of things when he's really willing to do it. He'll put everything together.
But okay, so to tie this back to sports, though,
Yep.
we talked about antennas and the outreach and being able to get networks and eyeballs and give things a chance and even stretch, beyond belief, getting a different Yokozuna to kind of play the character. That's exactly why the USFL is going to work, right? Or one of these leagues. Maybe it's the XFL. Maybe it's a league 5 years from now when me and Mike are in the retirement home. One of these leagues is going to work though because of Twitter, because of the Manning cast that we spoke on earlier. One of these leagues is gonna find the perfect balance, the perfect chemistry between, hey, we don't need to be traditional. We can go outside of the means. We can go to an Amazon, a Netflix, a subsidiary, and we can make this work because we're going to lean into gambling or we're going to lean into a new technology. Similar to how the UFC has branched off and does probably the best of any sport, incorporating Twitter into their pay-per-views. That's just an example of when these leagues lean into technology and they lean in and they do things differently than most people are willing to do, and they're willing to take chances and gamble, I think that speaks well to it. So now that we have to wrap up on a certain time, but I want to know what team is the trap team, Mike, for you? What team in the playoffs right now is the worst team and just is getting overhyped and is not gonna do well?
I mean, let's go down the list because first things I'm coming to, I think there's a lot of teams that can win. So to pick the teams that can't win,
That's why.
Do you want to go down the list, or do you want to start with mine?
You can start. Well, if you got them off the top, roll with it.
I've got all the conferences in that. I already know my team that I know. I'll project a sweep right now. They're not.
I know who
your
team is going to win. We talked about this earlier.
Okay, go give it to me, and I want the mic back after you give me the team.
No, he can roll.
I was about to say my team that I think is just a fraud team is Chicago.
Okay, now.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that they're frauds, but
hold on.
I don't expect them to go far.
No, I can see them getting swept.
I want Governor now to tell me why Chicago is going to win the finals.
No, he's saying they're going to lose.
I'm saying.
I know. That's what I flipped it on him.
Okay, so no. I can actually answer this. For Chicago to win the finals,
yes,
Zach LaVine has to be perfectly healthy and play like a top 3 guard. He has to be right up there with Kyrie, Harden as one of the top guards in this playoff. He has to play that level. Number 2, Vooch and the rest of the other role players, because I put Vooch as a top role player, watching him play in Orlando all those years. Amazing player, very solid. Not one of your top 3 studs that I would build a team around. But he's like the best guy to help with all of that. He's got to be very consistent with all of the other guys, Patrick Williams, Caruso, all of the other guys. And then number 3, and the most important, DeMar DeRozan's got to be able to get out of the second round, which he has never done when you built around him in Toronto. He's the linchpin. DeRozan has to play like an absolute monster. Like he can carry you through the finals. And he's always been a second round fizzle. That's why I think they're a fraud team. I don't see LaVine or DeRozan doing that. Best case scenario is they've got a solid bench. Like they've got good role players, Vooch, the rest of that starting core. Like if they had Lonzo, they'd have a lot better guard rotation, be much deeper. But then I still think Chicago is a piece short of making any kind of run. And I feel like they should be a play-in team. Oh, like Brooklyn shouldn't have had to be in the play-in. It should have been Chicago. All things healthy, Brooklyn should have been the 5 or the 6.
The reason I did that to you, Governor, was because I called that the Dan Orlovsky Award. Because Dan Orlovsky is allowed to go on ESPN and say the most outlandish things and just have no repercussions. And I feel like he says the wildest nonsense and then has no reason to back it up.
And
so
I was about to say, thank you for allowing me to play Skip Bayless for a minute.
Well, I knew you would play along.
Of course.
So but that's the thing is, like, I don't think enough people do that. They always want to tell you that they're right. Like, people will have a conviction and they always want to tell you they're right, but sometimes they don't have the evidence to back it up. And I know you gentlemen do. So when we look at the playoffs, what are some of the storylines that are going under the radar or that people should be paying attention to? So, like, the underground people that are paying attention to this podcast over an hour into this podcast, the real hardcore fans of this podcast at this point, what do we want to tell them that the mainstream media won't tell them about the NBA playoffs? Anything at all, you guys?
Well, I'll answer your last question again. I got a team. I'll say that I think I'm not buying them to be championship material. And that's the number 1 seed, Miami Heat. I love Jimmy Butler. I like Tyler Hero. I like Bam Adebayo. I like Kyle Lowry. I just don't know that team, and I think they play good defense, has somebody who's going to hit the shot consistently in clutch time. And no disrespect to any of the players on that team, because I do like all of them as just great team players. So maybe they can get it done. They might get, I'm sure they'll probably come out of the first round because they're only going to play
probably Cleveland
or Atlanta. But although Cleveland's not a team to sleep on either. And then again, Trae Young's not.
I think that Cleveland.
I think Miami's got their work cut out for him. I think Boston's got their work cut out for him. I think the Nets, obviously, that's why I didn't want to pick Boston. But I think Miami could easily lose in the first round. But I don't think they're better than Milwaukee or Philly or Brooklyn. And that's. I
would agree with you on that. Like, Jimmy Butler has to play like bubble Jimmy Butler. They need Duncan Robinson or Victor Oladipo or one of those other guards to just be lights out through the playoffs. And then they can make a run because they are a very solid defense. They are experienced. Spo's a good coach. Like, they have the ability to make a run if guys are playing well through the playoffs. But they, more than anyone, can't have like 2 bad games in a row.
I also want to shout out, because maybe not enough people know this, and we are a DFS podcast. There is a cool like gambling element to the playoffs that I think goes underrated every year. If you guys want, there is what they called a playoff matchup prop on DK right now. You can go through the NBA playoffs and scroll over to what they call NBA playoff matchups, and they will give you 2 players, and it will be points per game, like Devin Booker against DeMar DeRozan, for example. And if you get the right one right, they'll give you odds on that guy to score the most points in the series. And right now, there's some easy money out there right now if you guys want to grind those edges. So just like I like to grind the United States Football League when no one's looking over in the corner, I always like to find the dust balls in the corner of the room and sweep them up when you can. There's little pockets of money to get everywhere, especially little fun bets too. If you don't want to follow a team, you can follow players and match up similar to how they do in golf week to week. So that's a shout out to DraftKings for doing that as well. I like that. So, is there anything you guys want to mention? Any questions you want to fire at me? I kind of want to keep this wrap this up within the next like 5 minutes, just so we don't overwhelm people, because we are going to come back with our mega show tomorrow night, where we can hit on all this stuff again. If any of you want to join us, or even if you're listening to this podcast, you want to join us, we got some collaborations on the pipeline. This podcast has been fun to almost pop on nightly and just like give you guys the sports highlights, from our perspective. So I'm going to give these guys a chance to ask me some random questions.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What kind of DFS recommendations you got for tomorrow night? We gotta give the people what they want. Some picks.
Play Allen if he plays. He's highly motivated.
Grayson Allen?
No.
Jared Allen.
Jared Allen.
Honestly, he might be highly motivated, but even if he plays his normal minutes, they didn't price him down any. I actually don't like him at all.
I don't like him either, actually.
He needs to play his full minutes just to make value.
I was just gonna preface that I haven't looked at salary, but I do know he's highly motivated because he could have had finger surgery and chose not to because he wanted to be there for the team. Now, I agree with these other guys. I haven't looked at the slate yet in full transparency. So if he's like priced like a mainstay guy, you got to stay away. But I like that from a humanitarian standpoint. I'll be cheering for him.
To be fair, pricing tomorrow is kind of soft. There's no real, like the most expensive guy is $10K Paul George. So there's no real stupid pay-ups. But you kind of need that because it's the playoffs. So like there's only probably 8 or 9 guys on any team that are even really viable, if that. Probably more like 6 to 7 on each team. So you're maybe looking at like a 30-man player pool for tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you're going heavy on the guards. And, I want to say I know Logan had taken Okwangu the other day in his lineup, and I was kind of questioning it at first, and then he explained it. He's like, the guy's getting 20 minutes a game in almost pretty much every game.
Yeah.
And he's been hitting that 20-point fantasy, which is giving him, if he's below 4,000, then he's getting over 5 times his average. If he's breaking 20 in fantasy points, that's kind of where that gets the value. So here's what I was thinking with that, because Logan, this is where that brainstorming thing comes in together. I'm starting to think, okay, Capella had a great night the other night. He put up like 50 fantasy points on both platforms. And, okay, that we have to note that happened, and everyone's going to jump on that and say, all right, his value didn't jump up too high. He's almost 8,000. He's 7,700 on FanDuel. But he hadn't put up a 50-point game in a long time. And granted, he obviously could. But I could also see the Cavaliers have a ton of bigs that they can throw at him. They got Mobley. They got Love. They got Markkinen. Laurie Markkinen. And they also got I'm missing one. I'm forgetting one, but
Mobley, Love, Markkinen, Moses Brown, Jared Allen.
I forgot Moses Brown, and then Jared Allen too, if he plays, which actually I believe he is going to play. So they got a lot of guys. I could easily see the potential for Capella to get in foul trouble, and then maybe Okwangu, goes instead of 20 minutes roughly to 25, 28, and then his potential goes through the roof, and he's still only at 3,700, and the matchup is a good matchup according to FanDuel. They're 25th ranked. Cleveland is apparently.
Yeah, I have them as a bottom. Yeah, they're a bottom defense against centers and against bigs in general.
I haven't set my lineup, but that was one thing that kind of jumped out to me. A lot of power forwards. If you look at the power forwards again, I'm looking at FanDuel. You got Mobley and Ingram, but Ingram you can move to small forward if you need to. And then it gets tight. You got Love at 58, Markkinen 57, Hartenstein at 56. I'm not too big on him. Herb Jones just played a great game the other day at 55, and then it drops off a little bit. But then you got another lower tier at Covington, Gallinari, and Hunter are all still above 5. It's tight. I feel like you go high on point guards, shooting guards, and that's kind of where I think I'm leaning on as far as how I'm going to set my lineup. I'll let anybody else want to take over on what they're thinking as far as other players.
I'm over on DraftKings mostly, and I'm building basically the same way. It's trying to pick between Garland, McCollum, George, Young, because they're all. Of course, this is the week that all of them are only, except for McCollum, they're all only point guard or shooting guard eligible. So little more limited in where you can put them.
So if you guys like all those guys, though, you're gonna have to take a value guy somewhere. What's the top value guy?
I honestly haven't had to. Like, I have a lineup built here as like my preliminary, and like I'm getting both Garland and McCollum, who they're not the 10K Paul George or the 9,700 Trae Young, but they're the next two guys basically.
So you're taking like what we call the golf approach, where like, okay, so if you were to build a golf lineup, for example, and I like using golf because probably not a lot of people play, it's one of the niche sports. It's like golf, you got the 10K guys, right? And if you pay for two of the 10K guys, you have to drop all the way down to the 6K to make your lineup work. Where what Gov is saying is if you take guys just slightly under that, so in golf it would be like taking the 9K or the 8K guys, you can fit 2 or 3 of those guys in. You just fade the top top 2 projected guys, and then you build the most balanced lineup possible. That's what you're saying, correct?
I'm actually trying to point like, yeah, you can do that in any DFS sport. That's a way of building lineups.
Right.
It's more of like you're not going scrubs and duds. But I'm actually trying to point out that like they're actually not close. Like if I wanted to, I could get off one of these mid-range guys to a slightly less mid-range guy and get up to the George and the Young. I'm
correct.
I need to free up $200 to play Trae Young in place of one of these guys. I'm not like the pricing is not at a point where I think you need that 3K. Like, yeah, I think tomorrow is going to be the trap game if you're down there playing Chetty Osman, Isaac Okoro, Delion Wright, Rajon Rondo. Like, I don't think you need a 34. Like,
well, especially with Wright, because remember we saw a blowout, so Wright's numbers look better than they should have based on the garbage minutes.
Right.
The reason I used a golf analogy was because I know it was a niche sport, and so I didn't have to use names. I could just use the philosophy of you're going to go with the mid-tier guys over the top price guys, so that way you can build a balanced lineup over a stars and scrubs lineup.
Right, but I was trying to make the point that you don't need to even do that. I can totally fit the 2 high-priced guys and still have a balanced lineup where I don't need those low-end dudes.
Fair enough.
The pricing is soft enough. They're not that far off. Like maybe you're going to have trouble if you're trying to fit in George, Young, and one of Garland or McCollum. Like if you're trying to fit in 3 of those high-priced guards, then you're probably grabbing a 4K or less dude at like that's the point where you're looking for like a cheap power forward. You're playing Batum at 4,200. You're playing Larry Nance at 3,400. And I don't like having to play Larry Nance at 3,400.
He gets some, but
I mean, he's a rotation guy. He'll get his 15 minutes probably.
Yeah,
like,
but
he
it's
got that in the San Antonio
not enough
game.
to count on unless it goes to a blowout.
Right. Same thing with like Najee Marshall in the same range. Like I don't like playing those guys, and that's your 3K guys. Like at forward at least. Even if you go to guard and everyone, like I don't like playing Chetty and Okoro. I don't want to play Terrence Mann that much. Wright and Rondo. Okongwu at 3,300 is probably your best bet as a cheap guy. So like that's the thing. Like if you want to play all 3 guards, you're probably playing Okongwu at center because you're going to need one 3K guy.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm leaning because I just took a look through the lineup. Like, I think the best value is in going heavy on some of the higher price guys, whether it's Paul George or the guards. There's I looked at Karis LeVert's price now, and I liked him the other night. And at 6,800 now, granted, if Karis LeVert was, fully healthy all year and been killing it most of the year, like I know he can, I'd be thinking that's a great price. But from where he's been at, I don't trust that number.
I thought Levert left a lot of potential on the court too, as well. As good as he played in stretches of that game, I thought he left a lot of points on the field. He had some silly turnovers where I feel like if he would have slowed down and made a few other decisions, he could have easily scored 10 or 12 more points. So I like that call a lot.
I agree. And he's in a really good matchup against Cleveland. Like Cleveland is not good against guard, or Atlanta's not good against guards.
Against guards, correct. Yeah. Now I open the show. I'm gonna shoot it over to Mike to close the show. Mike, give the people like a 2-minute, a 5-minute wrap up. What's your initial? Because I feel like you've gotten the mic the least tonight. So
no, I'm good. If I've been looking at my phone, I'm just trying to look up stats and like just stuff to talk about. Man, I did have a good 2-part kind of conversation, and now I'm just trying to catch back up. It had to do with what you guys were talking about. It had to do with the play-in.
Here, while you think about it, I'm gonna shoot out some bigger DFS guys that give me some advice, and that way we can prime tomorrow night. I got some nice messages from, I mentioned Eric Eager, Pete Overzet, Joe Hoka reached out to me. I spoke to the head, the Matthew Berry of Yahoo Fantasy about our podcast. He gave us some good words. I spoke to some of the USFL podcast people who've been doing podcasts, who beat reporters, stuff like that. So we're going to bring all that to you tomorrow night.
Blowout. Keep going. Sorry, I just needed to say it so we can go back. Go ahead.
Yeah. But we're gonna just have tons of good content. It's gonna be a fun show. To me, tomorrow night is the measuring stick. If you guys care about this podcast, if you've ever cared about me, if you care about Mike, if you care about sports, we're gonna try to make tomorrow night the WrestleMania of this podcast. It's gonna be like, no, it really is. I really mean it. It's gonna be WrestleMania 1 for this podcast. It's gonna be the moment I'm building up to, because that is the moment, the launching pad, the grand finale kickoff of our week, basically, of this podcast, where I really pour my heart and soul into everything to make this podcast and to make this sports show something so I can make money for you guys, so we can all eat. All these other shows that me and Mike did, me and 12 did.
Hey, Governor was on the first few.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Oh yeah,
Gov did the first one. Those were all grocery shopping events. Okay, that was time for us to stock the refrigerator to make sure the eggs were cool, as my boy Chick Kern would say for the Lakers when they won. The eggs and the butter in the refrigerator. We were shopping for all the inventory, and then tomorrow night we pull all that shit out of the refrigerator and we cook it up for the whole community. Anyone who listens, I don't care if it's 5 viewers, 20 viewers, how many ever fans I have, the 30 subscribers I got. I want us all to come together and just pour our hearts and soul into the USFL, and I hope one of us take it down, because we might not see a prize pool this big week 2 for the USFL, but I think it's 20 grand.
100 grand. They have 100 grand to first contest on DK.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I'm interested. Oh wait,
Right.
They're the only. FanDuel. What's up, man? You're not doing USFL.
Like, come on! This is, again, I only play on DK, so
no, I
don't
go
care
back and forth, so I'll hop on for that.
Well, I have been playing on Yahoo.
I
have to remember, I have been playing on Yahoo more. It's been a little on and off, but I have been playing Yahoo more, so I am more than one.
Like Yahoo
has daily fantasy sports.
Yes, they do.
Well,
Basketball, football. Yep.
No, they have daily fantasy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Go
and
for
it's-
Yahoo. I gotta
yeah.
check that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you might be good because it's FanDuel type scoring, but like they're in their early times, so it's just like DraftKings. They're
You know,
low rake,
it's-
a lot of money back contests. Enter this contest will immediately give you the entry fee back in credit that you can use on your
Yeah.
next contest. So it's like, okay, a bunch of contests you can basically enter for free if you've got the bankroll in there.
Let me answer Sam's question here. He popped into the podcast. He might be an international guy. He might just be a sports fan. DFS stands for a daily fantasy sport, sir.
no, he
Oh boy.
he said, "What this?" Sam,
Okay, well,
Sam,
what-
you still here?
yeah, what's this is sports. I was trying to give the man a bit of a doubt. I wasn't trying to put the guy on blast.
Classic.
I was hoping he was talking about DFS in general, not just
What?
like
What this?
podcast.
Hey, man, Sam, glad we popped up in your YouTube feed. You
Glad
know?
you're looking around. Yeah.
Hey, we talked about news about the 50.
Checking it all out.
Clearly the algorithm is on our side.
Yes, I think if that is proof,
Proof.
That is proof.
we're gonna make it.
It's probably proof that we went on a bit too long too. So
No, no.
No.
Hold on, I have the question. So I screamed out blowout, and I apologize for interrupting.
You're
But
good.
blowout was to signify, and also for anyone to remind me if I couldn't remember that. But once I screamed it, I was like, I'm never going to forget that now. The question was, who of tomorrow night's games do you think is going to be a blowout? And the reason I ask is, if it could be, if someone's going to have a blowout, who do you think it's going to be? You don't even need to know which team's going to blow out. Just if it's going to happen, which game could it happen in? Because then you want to take more fantasy players, the stars in the other game, kind of like Logan had done the other night. And I just wanted to point that out, that is if you kind of have a lean on one game being a blowout, that's a good strategy to do. Take the stars of the other game and take the bench players. So if I think the Atlanta Cleveland game is going to be a blowout, then I would take bench players on Atlanta or Cleveland. It doesn't matter, because once the game kind of goes into hand, it's like, all right, we don't want to get anybody hurt for next season. So
go ahead. What you got, buddy?
Your guys' thoughts on that?
So
you got Atlanta, Cleveland, and New Orleans and Clippers.
I love the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans have a chance to win the whole thing. I really do. I like
9-2 since McCollum.
Yeah, I like the way that team is built, and I think Zion plays. I think Zion plays this year.
Really?
There's no way he plays this year.
Yeah, I don't think he plays either.
I'm not sure if he's eligible to be on the playoff roster. Either.
Hey, I wouldn't take that at even odds. Now, I mean it's a bold take. I mean, I would need some safety there.
No, like I said, I legitimately would have to look up and see if he's even allowed to be on the playoff roster, not playing all season.
He was on the bench in a suit, but on the bench.
Oh yeah, he's.
So I'll give him that. He was there for his team.
Yeah,
I was happy to see that.
But I'm not so sure that happens. I wouldn't hold out hopes for that.
But I like that.
It's weird. I would say the Pelicans too, because through most of the year, even before the McCollum trade, New Orleans was beating the Clippers. They played 4 games this year. First 3 games, Pelicans win by 13, Pelicans win by 19, Pelicans win by 24. Then the McCollum trade happens, and they played literally a week ago on the 3rd. And the Clippers won by 20. But that's Clippers with Paul George and everyone back. And then the first time the Pelicans played them. Oh, no. The Pelicans had CJ when they played them and won by 24. 89-113.
Let me just say this. I think the Pelicans are what everyone wanted the Clippers to be this season. They're a really long, really athletic defensive team that is streaky offensive. I like Brandon Ingram. I like Herbert Jones, and I like Jackson Hayes a lot.
Herbert Jones is legit.
But like from an interchangeable standpoint, those three players are very interchangeable and very versatile. Jackson or Hayes is very versatile. I would even say he's better than Jaren Jackson. I would be willing to say that. Like I'm high on a lot of the more underrated Pelicans. I mean, everyone knows CJ. I mean, I'm one of the biggest CJ stands there is, but everyone knows CJ. I'm telling you, there's a lot of unrecognizable names in the Pelicans that makes them really scary. Not only for this series, but like I'm talking like they could challenge for the Western Conference.
That's a nice bold take, and I don't think you're that far. You might be right. That's all I'm pretty much trying to say is like the more I'm starting to take into consideration everything, like I agree with a lot of those points. Jackson Hayes was a great center at Texas. I believe it was Texas. One and done, but he's only 19, 20 years old now. He hasn't been in the league that long, and he's getting a lot of nice minutes and showing out.
And Valanciunas could match up with an Aiden type center. Very like that's what I'm saying. Is like if you look at the matchup, I think the Pelicans match up with a lot of teams because of Valanciunas. I think a lot of people forget about him and what he can do to an Allen, to some of these teams who have like legit centers. You know.
I think New Orleans has a decent shot in the West. I'll give you that. Like they're not completely out of it. Like if they could make a run because they do match up well with most of the teams in the West. I think their problem is they would probably get buzzsawed by any one of the teams I would have coming out of the East. Like I think New Orleans gets buzzsawed by Milwaukee, gets buzzsawed by Brooklyn, gets buzzsawed by Philly. Like I think that would make for a bad NBA finals, but I think they do because they do sort of match up well. They've got the bigs to match up with Denver and Utah. Yep. They've got the guards to match up with Golden State and Phoenix and Memphis. So
let me give you another mic drop, and I'll drop the mic and let you and Mike finish up. I'm opposite of you, Gov. I like the Bulls because I think Lonzo Ball might be the most underrated defender in the entire league. Now,
but Lonzo's not playing though. Lonzo's already out for the season.
You think he's out?
He's already said he's out for the season. He's going to rest so that he doesn't have to have surgery and he'll be ready for next year.
I didn't see that, but I will also say I like the rookie. I can never pronounce his name. I'm not going to try.
Ayo Dosunmu.
I just say Ayo. Ayo Dosunmu, because whenever I try to say the last name, I end up going Doskoi, which is the sumo wrestler from Dragon Ball Super. Like,
Not a
everything comes back to sumo. Trust me, I'm a big fat motherfucker.
But I will say I'm biased because I've always been low key a Vucevic guy, and so maybe it's me wanting the Bulls to do well for underdogs like Vucevic, for underdogs like DeRozan, who's been slept on. I like that humanitarian story, but I like the Bulls team. Even Alex Caruso, who the Lakers gave up on, who you could argue who's more famous, Alex Caruso or Alex Baker.
To be fair, that Chicago team has 3 players the Lakers probably wish they still had or would have gotten. Because they probably should still have Caruso, getting rid of him at the year. They were trying to get DeRozan before they were trying to get Westbrook.
Yeah.
So they probably wish they had him. And then I love Vooch as an old Magic, but I remember he's the reason we won that 3-team trade. There were 3 centers in that trade. Vooch went to Orlando, Dwight went to the Lakers, and Bynum went to Philly.
Yes.
Orlando won that trade.
I'm
going to say it hands down. Orlando won that trade because Vooch is the best center of the 3 since then.
Yep.
So, I'll give you, I'm an Orlando guy, so I'll give you. Vooch is a great player. He's not a stud, So I understand why Orlando needed to move on from him, but like he's playing very solidly.
But I feel like he can raise his game. Like he's had a bad 20 games, but I feel like he can raise his game. He can become the playoff V of the playoff P of Paul Pierce became. I really do think Vucevic could elevate his game similar to Karl Anthony Towns. So those are the two big guys I would watch out for this playoff. Anything else before I close up shop here?
I'm good. I think we covered it all.
Yeah, see,
Well, it was fun hanging out.
I was about to say, I'll get it out there because I don't know if I said it straight up. I have my sneaky Golden State playing the Milwaukee Bucks in the finals. That's my pick. I just want to get that out. I kind of want to hear what you guys have as your finals pick. You don't have to tell me who you think's winning, but everything I like, I got Golden State playing Milwaukee.
I'll go last, Logan. I got one seed. I got to think of my Western Conference team, but actually, all right, I got it. I'm going to take the Warriors as well. I just, as much as I like the Suns' depth, I don't think that they'll stay healthy enough. Chris Paul, unfortunately,
You got the banana
I wish him well.
if he needs a ring.
I wish him well. I want him to win. I could, if I'm saying who I want to root for, I'd root for the Suns over the Warriors. But if I'm guessing who I want or who I think will win, and this is going to be a great finals matchup if it happens, is the Warriors and the Nets. Let's make it happen.
Durant versus the Warriors would be absolutely amazing.
That would be. I mean, how good of a finals would that be?
Oh, Kyrie, you get Kyrie revenge versus the Warriors from losing in Cleveland. You'd get Durant playing the Warriors after leaving them and winning.
Yep.
But they'd be playing essentially, like I said, the 72-win 2014 unstoppable giant
Durant
Warriors
gets to
with
see what
two of the greatest 3-point shooters in NBA history.
And you get to see that 72 team, and granted you could say it happened with
this is a different
Draymond
version.
getting that foul and being kicked out of a game or two, kind of, but
Draymond's going to be mouthy on Durant.
Yeah,
he's going to be the one.
How good of a finals would that be?
Yeah, no, that would be a very exciting finals. I personally think Milwaukee comes out of the East. I love Giannis. I think they've been holding Giannis all year. I've been watching their games, and they have this weird rotation where they don't play Giannis weird minutes, and the man has been up there in fantasy points and everything. If you play DFS, he's one of the top scorers. He can put up 70. He's just as good as Luka and Joker and LeBron and all of that. And he's the one averaging the least amount of minutes. He only plays 30 minutes a night, 31 minutes a night.
Here's the thing, though, Gov. Giannis is going this way. He's getting better. That three is getting better. Those free throws are getting better.
Yeah.
He is not just a finisher around the rim.
He is a problem.
That's why I like Giannis is one of my MVP. My MVP goes Luka, Giannis, Embiid, Joker. Unfortunately.
People said this about him, and they won't admit it now because they look like clowns. But I remember multiple people, including people I knew in real life and people I knew on the internet, both drew comparisons to Josh Smith, and I laughed, and I said, no, this kid is humble. There was something about him that was uniquely humble, and he has gotten better every year. Similar to Jokic, too. Jokic just puts his head down and goes to work.
Yes.
I think these younger guys like a Giannis, like a Jokic, like a Devin Booker even, these younger guys don't get credit for how hard they grind. Some of these younger guys just grit their teeth and grind. Even DeMar DeRozan just put his head down this year and grinded. There was a lot of humble, good humanitarian stories that came out of the NBA. To come full circle on my humanitarian, we don't pay enough attention to the good boys of sports. like there's a lot of good stories coming from the NBA, whether it be the reemergence of Giannis and just his growth, how hard some of these guys have worked to come back. Even I think, now you correct me if I'm wrong, but James Wiseman has been grinding really hard to come back as well. I know Klay Thompson got a lot of attention. Is there a chance that Wiseman could come back?
No, unfortunately, they did shut him down for the
Did
year.
they?
And they have been talking about how it looks like he might need to be packaged so that they can try on another pick somewhere.
I thought he had been shut down, but I wanted to mention him on a podcast.
He was trying, like he has been in the G League playing for like the last month, trying to get back.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Like, as we go full circle on the Haskins, like, come back. I really wanted this podcast to be a kind of homage to that Haskins kind of mentality of like, here's this young kid who wanted to grind. You know, for example, they've been begging Haskins to come back to Ohio State for so long, and he refused to do it, Mike. And you know why? Because he was on the record saying, I know I'm good. I want to prove that I'm good before I come back. And then he passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, that.
And so,
Haskins,
but that's why I wanted to bring up guys.
It is so sad to think about, like.
But that's why I wanted to bring up guys like that
tonight. The street.
But I wanted to bring up guys like that tonight. I wanted to bring up a Sanjay Amba, James Wiseman, because I didn't want to turn this into, oh, this kid died, so I want to make it out to be this like historic, heroic story. There are a lot of kids out there grinding right now to get back in the league, on fields, whether it be a Colin Kaepernick, whether it be, a Mitch Trubisky. Like, if you're a fan of those guys, Victor Bolden, some of these guys are really grinding to get back and just enjoy what they do. Cheer for them now. Tell them on Twitter, hey, I appreciate you. Because you never know when it might be too late, to say, hey, I appreciate you. And that goes for your friends, your family. If you see your friend doing good at work, he got a promotion, he did something good, don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, we haven't talked in a while, buddy. How you doing? And I wanted to be genuine about that. So I wanted to bring some real life living examples of that. No disrespect to Haskins, but like people do that when people pass away. They like to only like, oh, well, I was always a fan. It's like, no, some of you were unfortunately rude to some of these guys. And I just want to make sure we recognize, as we watch some of these lower level guys, we don't just clown these guys. We don't just make fun of them. We enjoy sports for what it is. I mean, look at the connections we made tonight. Mike didn't know Governor, and now they were shooting the shit for over an hour, having fun, learning about Japanese culture and all kinds of things. So, like, sports can be an avenue for greatness. And so do one thing for me, guys. If you've watched this far, reach out to someone you care about, you haven't spoke to in at least 2 weeks, and say, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Because you never know when it might be too late. So have a good night. We'll be back tomorrow with some USFL. Anything else you guys want to say before we close up shop? I'm out of here, though.
No, I loved it.
Yeah,
good close out. Great message.
Good night,
Good
man.
show, everyone. Love everyone.